Unit 2, Understanding Hemispheres. Okay, let's get started and look at the keywords. Now our first keyword is geographer. Geographer. Now a geographer is a person. Now, a geographer is not a boy, but a geographer is a man or woman. A man or woman who studies the earth, land, and environment. So here is a globe, like we've seen in another lesson, and the geographer studies the land and the things on the land, mostly, and also the borders, the countries, the divisions between nations. Now, be careful. A geographer is not a geologist. A geologist studies rocks and volcanoes and things like that. But a geographer actually just studies the land and the formations and where the countries are. Now, what does a geographer do? Well, a geographer wants to divide. Here's a map of the earth, okay? Now, a geographer likes to divide, which means cut or split. And here is a special line. Geographers divide the earth into hemispheres. Hemisphere means a half of something. Half of a sphere. Well, the earth is a sphere, like a ball. Now, here's a line that's called the equator. That's a line of latitude at the center of the earth, very hot here in the tropical areas, in Brazil, in Africa, and Indonesia, those parts. It's called the equator. This is called the equator right here. And what it does, it cuts the earth in one half and another half. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. And you can see the words. So that's what the equator does. All right? Now, let's go take a look at another imaginary line. Again, hemisphere, but now this line right here, it goes through England. Do you remember England? Now this line, it goes through a certain place in England. It's called the prime meridian. Now this divides the earth into the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. And that's what geographers do. And so now you have a quadrant. One quadrant over here with the equator. Okay, if you have the equator and the prime meridian, you have one quadrant, two quadrants, 3 and 4, just like that. So that's what geographers do. They divide the earth into hemispheres. Okay, let's learn a little bit more and let's read. Understanding hemispheres. Ready? Let's read together. Geographers divide the earth into 4 different hemispheres. They are the northern, southern, western, and eastern hemispheres. The word hemi means half. A hemisphere covers exactly one half of the earth. The earth is divided into the northern and southern hemispheres by the equator. The equator is the line of latitude that lies in the middle of the earth. Above the equator is the northern hemisphere. Asia, Europe, and North America are in it. Below the equator is the southern hemisphere. It includes parts of Africa and South America. Australia and Antarctica are in it too. The earth is divided into the eastern and western hemispheres by the prime meridian. The prime meridian is a line of longitude that goes from the North Pole to the South Pole. It goes directly through Greenwich, England. North and South America are in the Western Hemisphere. Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica are in the Eastern Hemisphere. There, good reading. Thanks for reading with me. Now let's go back and take a look at that one more time. Here's page 1, okay? So, geographers who study the land and study the environment of the Earth, they like to divide the Earth into 4 different hemispheres: northern, southern, western, and eastern. And hemi means half. Sphere means like a ball. And the Earth is really something like a ball. Now here's page 2, okay? Now, how are the northern and southern hemispheres created? Well, the equator. The equator is the horizontal line, the imaginary horizontal line of latitude, and it's in the middle of the Earth where it's very, very hot at that point in the Earth. So it divides the Earth into the northern and southern hemisphere. And you have certain countries and other things that are in northern and southern hemispheres. Okay, one more page here. Now, we can also have the east and west hemispheres, and there is a vertical line called the prime meridian, and that creates the eastern and western hemispheres. Now, it's very tricky because that line goes exactly through the little town or city in England. It's pronounced Greenwich. I know it says green, but the pronunciation is Greenwich, England. So the prime meridian goes through that area in England, and it creates the eastern and western hemispheres. All right, that was good reading. Thank you very much. Now, if you're ready, let's do the checkup. All right, let's have some fun and get a high score. First, the main idea and details. Question number 1. What is the main idea of the passage? What's the main idea of this story? Is it A, the word hemi means half? B, there are many continents in the northern hemisphere? Or C, we can divide the Earth into different hemispheres? So, which is the main idea? A, B, or C? And of course, it's C. We're talking about the different hemispheres the Earth can be divided into. Question number 2. Europe is in the blank, okay? Europe is in the A, southern hemisphere, B, northern hemisphere, or C, western hemisphere. Where is Europe? Can you remember? Yeah, it's in the northern hemisphere. Actually, northern and mostly eastern too, the eastern hemisphere, except for a piece of England. All right, and question number 3. What is the equator? Can you remember the equator? What is it? Is it A, a line that runs next to the prime meridian? Is it B, a line of latitude in the middle of the Earth? Or C, a line of longitude from the North Pole to the South Pole? So the equator is B, a line of latitude in the middle of the Earth. It runs from east to west or left to right if you're looking at a picture. All right, question number 4. What does divide mean? What's the meaning of divide? Is it stretched, showed, or split? What's the best word for divide? Yeah, split. Or I can say cut sometimes. Yeah, right. The Earth is divided. The Earth is split into different hemispheres. Question number 5. According to the passage, which statement is true? A, North America is in the eastern hemisphere. B, Europe is in the southern hemisphere. C, the prime meridian goes from the North Pole to the South Pole. Now, which one of those is true? A, B, or C? It's C, right? The prime meridian is a vertical line, imaginary line, from the North Pole to the South Pole. Nice job on that. Now, number 6, let's complete the outline. We are talking about hemispheres. First, let's look at the northern hemisphere. It is north of the blank. North of what? It's north of the equator. And it includes Asia, Europe, and North America. Now, the southern hemisphere is south of the equator, and it includes Australia, blank, and parts of Africa and South America. What's the other place that it includes? Antarctica. Right, the very cold, cold Antarctica. Now, the western hemisphere is west of the prime meridian, and it includes north and blank blank. North and what? It is, South America. North America and South America. And one more for the outline, eastern hemisphere. It is east of the prime meridian. It includes Europe, Africa, Asia, and blank. What do you think it includes? Right, Australia and Antarctica. Nice, that's really good. Okay, good job on those. Now, let's look at some vocabulary. All right, remember the key words that we studied. Picture number 1. What's the word for a person whose area of study is geography? A person who studies geography is called a geographer. Geographer. Picture number 2. 1/2 of the earth is called what? 1/2 of the earth is called hemisphere. A hemisphere. Now, number 3, see that red line? Okay, it's an imaginary line that lies in the middle of the earth. Very, very hot area, tropical area, through Brazil, through Africa, and so on. What was it called? Yeah, equator. We call that line the equator. And picture number 4, an imaginary line that goes from the North Pole to the South Pole. It's called the prime meridian. And it goes exactly through, England, Greenwich, England, at that spot. There's only one line that does that. Hey, very good for the vocabulary. Now, let's get to the point. Choose the correct answer. Number 1, the equator divides the earth into the A, eastern and western hemispheres, or B, northern and southern hemispheres. So what does the equator do? It divides it into the northern and southern hemispheres. That's what the equator does. And number 2, the prime meridian is a line of latitude or longitude. That's hard. Can you remember? Right, it's a line of longitude. Nice job. All right, good. Now, which area do you live in, right? Do you live in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, eastern or western? Where? Take a look at the globe or the map sometime and find which countries live in the different hemispheres. That's all for now. Thank you very much. See you again soon. Bye-bye.